Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got another deck profile for you and I'm really excited to share. It's Ezreal, and this is where we ran a poll on our YouTube channel and this is the one that you selected. So we're very happy to be putting this forward to you. I do have two versions of this deck that I'm going to be putting forward so that you've got a couple of options to play with when you get there. This is a legend that's coming out in Spiritforged, and I'm very pleased to announce that we are also going to be posting this up on Spotify. So I will be reading out the card effects as well. So if you are on a bit of a travel, short train or something, and you just want to get a little bit of Riftbound fixed content in, you can catch us over on that platform as well. We do have an interview coming out. Unfortunately, my primary editor was very sick this week, so that's taken a bit of a delay. We are going to try and get that out a little bit later, but we will definitely have more interviews with players coming out in the coming weeks. We've got Tog is our next guest. I'm trying to sort out when we're going to have Gale Wins on. And then we've got some other big headlining players coming on in the near future. But for today's video, let's talk about the Prodigal Explorer Ezreal. Ezreal is a very cool champion, and it does have a bit of a problem with its legend card, and that is, should I just be playing Teemo? So my answer when I was trying to build this deck was, why would I not just play Teemo? And I think I've come to a pretty good build where I'm quite happy to roll with this. But to explain the card, it is a Calm Chaos Legend, so it shares the colors with Teemo, and it has an exhaust ability, reaction, draw one card. Use only if you've chosen enemy unit and or gear twice this turn with spells or unit abilities. Unfortunately, if you use gear to target your opponent's stuff, you won't get it, but the important thing is that any of your units at target or any of your spells at target will count towards this. This can be a little bit tricky to actually get off consistently because you generally end up playing multiple cards to trigger it, so you end up falling a little bit behind in terms of energy. But our deck is built in a way where triggering this just a few times will be more than enough to help us. We don't need to be triggering this every single turn of the game, and we got ways of cheating half of the cost, which makes it much more bearable and easier to resolve. So we do play a 6-6 split on our runes, and that will become apparent as we go into this and the side deck. I want to talk a little bit about our chosen champion, because this is going to fuel the entire deck, and our not chosen champion, which is the focus of the entire deck. Which is kind of a bit contradictory. Normally you'd be in a position where you're like, hey, I want my entire deck to be built around my chosen champion. And in this case, we want the consistency that we get from our chosen champion. And then the raw power we're going to find, because we have one of the most consistent builds that you can get in the game at this time. Tons of card draw, and you'll understand. So we're going to start with our chosen champion. This is Ezreal Prodigy. It is a free energy, 1 chaos power unit. That is, when you play me, discard 1 and draw 2. Optional additional costs you pay cost 1 less energy or 1 less power. This is really cool. So we need to understand what an optional additional cost is. And that's going to be things like repeat, which is a new mechanic in Spiritforged, or we could be using it against things like accelerate, which is an additional cost we pay when we play a unit. Pretty cool card. The main reason we play this is the consistency that it gives us, and that will make sense as we go through the deck, as it smooths out our hands and gives us a lot of options. Our entire deck is built around Ezreal dashing. We want to get Ezreal dashing, we want to have it on a point, and then we want to spend the rest of the game making the opponent's life as miserable as possible. Ezreal is a 4 energy, 1 mind power unit that has 3 might. That's quite low. In fact, in the interview that's going to come out where we did a sneak preview for Spiritforged, I said I think this card is bad. I regret that because I've had a chance to play with this card now and I get the vision. We're going to be playing Ezreal as a hyper carry. The effect is when I attack or defend, deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit here. I don't deal combat damage. And then it has another ability, which is 1 mind power at action speed, move me to your base. This card is really obnoxious. So the thing is when we move in to attack, Ezreal will go ahead and shoot it, and whatever his might value is when it resolves is how much damage he'll deal. And then also on the defense. So Yasuo Remorseful can win a game all by itself, but that costs 6 energy, 2 power, and only triggers on the attack. Ezreal's triggering on both. Admittedly, we're a bit understated, and originally I was like, this dies to Hextech Ray, like you move it in, the ability to protect itself is at action speed, so you can't react with it. So I wasn't a fan. But then I came to see what happens when you actually get your AD carry some items and watch it wreak havoc on your opponent's team. The cool things we can do with this is move it in, shoot. We can then play other cards, which will then help trigger our legend because this counts as one half of it. And then whenever it's threatened, when our opponent moves in, we can shoot that guy, we can move to our base, and then we can go back in next turn, shoot them again. Or we can hold, retreat it using its ability, and then we can move it in again. So we get budget ganking effectively on this. Very, very powerful card, and will put your opponent in a lot of awkward spots. And because of that, the chosen battlefields that we are going for is Grove of the Godwillow. This is really good for when we're going first, because we can just put it into play, we can get on it, and we can make it very hard for our opponents to take it away. When you hold here, draw a card. Very good classic. It's played in a lot of decks. Our opponents are likely to play it. We're quite happy to see it whenever we do. So we want to play that when we're going first. So it's either going to be game 2 if we lost game 1, or it's going to be game 3 when we get to choose again. So for example, we win the dice roll game 1, we've already selected our battlefield. We get to game 3, when we have lost game 2, we can choose, oh, we're definitely going first. We're going to play Grave of the Godwillow. The battlefield I like to open with is Fortified Position. This card is when you defend here, choose a unit, it gains shield 2 this combat, +2 might while there's a defender. This is usually pretty bad if you give your opponent a Master Yi passive ability. You kind of hate yourself and you wonder, why did I play this terrible battlefield? But stay with me. This is actually really, really good in our deck. The main reason for that is, 1, Ezreal gets really big and then shoots even harder. And 2, we've got a lot of tricks to get our opponent off of this that don't involve us attacking them. So we can push our opponent off, move in, and then we can take advantage of the defensive capabilities of this. Very, very good card, and it makes a lot of our smaller units difficult to handle if we get there first. If our opponent gets there first, we've got ways to push them off, and then we can just move into it. And this can support some of our smaller units, and it's just generally pretty good for us. We've got lots of ways of making this not good for the opponent. Lastly, we're playing the Candlelit Sanctum. Again, this is one that I'm quite happy to go after siding when we are going second. This is when you conquer here, look at the top 2 cards of your main deck. You may recycle 1 or both of them. Put those you don't back in any order. So we are playing Nocturnes in this deck, and that will become apparent because we've got so many ways of looking into the deck. And one of our side deck strategies is we side in one of our Nocturnes. So we have 2 in the main and we side 1 in for when we're on Candlelit Sanctum. It adds a bit of consistency to both players' decks, which is great for us. We're already incredibly consistent, so we're always going to find the cards we need. This kind of smooths that out. And it gives us a chance to just cheat units into play that have ganking, which is very, very powerful. So our early stages of the game, what we're focused on with this deck is creating gold. Gold is a new mechanic. When you get it, it comes into play exhausted. And then when it's ready, you can exhaust it and destroy it. Then you get to add a power of any color. That is going to pay for all our power costs and is exceptionally strong. To that end, we are playing 3 copies of Treasure Hunter, which is one of my favorite 2-drops in the entire set of Spiritforged. It is a 2 energy, 1 might unit. That is, when I move, play a gold gear token exhausted. This triggers when it moves in, it triggers when it moves out. So if you're fighting on Reaver's Row, for example, when we retreat, we get a gold token. If we use Fight or Flight, we get a gold token. If our opponents do things that move it, or anything else we could consider, we could be playing Flash, for example, if we were playing a different kind of build, we would be able to get additional gold. This only needs to trigger a few times to really pay value for the rest of the game. Every time this triggers, it effectively saves you a rune for all of your more powerful cards. To that end, we are also playing the Plundering Poro. I'm a little bit less of a fan. This is like my tier 2 draw for turn 1. So it's a 2 energy, 2 might unit, also from Spiritforged. When I conquer, play a gold gear token exhausted. It doesn't give us anything on the move, so if our opponent kills this or does something horrible to it and we don't get the conquer off, we just basically lose our 2 energy, which makes me less of a fan of this. However, it does make gold, and we are very, very good at spending it with Ezreal's ability, all of our really high power costs. Our last 2 energy unit that we're playing is the Ravenbloom Student. It's a 2 might, 2 energy card from Origins. You've probably seen a ton of this if you've played against Kai'Sa. When you play a spell, give me +1 might this turn. We play a lot of spells. This kind of fits. It just gives us our 7th 2 energy unit, which means on our turn 1, we're very likely to be able to open. In order of priority that we want to see them, it's Treasure Hunter, Plundering Poro, then Ravenbloom Student. It just kind of fits in that you could potentially swap this for some other options if in your local meta there's something else you want to do, but this is still a reasonably strong card. We're playing a gear to help with the gold generation, Cull. So this is an equipment card. These are new in Spiritforged, and effectively its ability is equip for 1 chaos power. Attach this to a unit you control, and then the bottom part of the text gets added to the unit. So when I conquer, play a gold gear token exhausted. and it gives +1 might. So our ideal situation is that we turn 1, play Treasure Hunter. Our opponent goes ahead and plays something that costs 3 energy into their base exhausted. Turn 2, we have 4 runes. We go ahead, play Cull. We attach Cull. We send in the Treasure Hunter, and then we make 2 gold. We also do that with the Poro, and that can be very strong. With the Poro, it goes up to 3 might, which means it can be quite useful if our opponents manage to get to a battlefield first. For example, with a sneaky deck hand, we can suit up our Poro, and we can go in, we can run over their guy, and we get to make 2 gold. Very, very powerful, and means that we get to play better card quality than our opponents. Our consistency engine for the entire deck to make sure that we get to where we need to be is 3 copies of Stack Deck, the 1 energy action that lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put 1 in your hand, recycle the rest. Very, very strong, can play at action speed. This is actually more powerful to play at action speed in this deck. However, don't feel ashamed playing it on your turn if you just need to find specific answers. But because we do have access to Nocturne, we can play at action speed, and if we already control a battlefield, a surprise Nocturne out of nowhere can make a defense a success when it would have otherwise failed. We're playing a new card in this from Spiritforged called Shot. I'm going to keep saying Spiritforged because it's such a cool set, and I'm a huge fan. And this is probably another one of my favorite cards in the entire set. It's a 0 energy, 1 chaos power card that has action speed, so we can play it during our opponent's turns or during our turns. Repeat, 1 chaos power. You may pay the additional cost to repeat this spell effect. Look at the top 2 cards of your main deck, draw 1, and recycle the other. This is nuts. We get to effectively play this, repeat it, and then we look at the top 2, draw whichever one's the better one, recycle the other. Then we look at the next 2, draw 1, recycle another. We spent 0 energy to do that, plus we can pay gold to pay the power cost for this. But most importantly, the reason that we go with Ezreal Prodigy as our chosen champion is that that's an optional cost. So for 1 power, we get to draw 2 cards. Seems pretty strong, right? And we have this access whenever we need it. So we can pay gold to play our Ezreal, and then we can use our other gold for called Shot. And that gives us a lot of consistency. It's going to let us get through our deck and find all of the tools that we need to fight our opponents. We're also playing 1 Seal of Discord. This is just a 0 energy, 1 chaos power card. It pays for all of our power costs. It has exhaust, reaction, add a chaos power. So we can use gold to pay for this, so we don't actually have to recycle a rune. And then for the rest of the game, it will pay for all of our equip costs because we have quite a few that are in chaos. And we can also use it to pay our hidden costs as well, which means that we can save more of our power to get the energy that we need to play some of our bigger stuff. And then we can focus on spending our blue runes for Ezreal's ability. So we got our early game going, and once we actually get onto a point, we actually start making it really horrible for your opponent to get into. We're playing a new equipment, Edge of Night. Now this is, I keep saying so many of these cards are my favorite cards of the set, but I think this is my favorite equipment in the entire expansion. It is a gear equipment for 3 energy that has Hidden. Hide now for a power, and then it becomes a react. Very, very important, it becomes a react. And then it's just a 1 chaos power to attach this to a unit you control, plus 2 might. Very, very simple, but we play it from Hidden at reaction speed, so if our opponent plays a Void Seeker, for example, we can respond with Edge of Night, get plus 2 might, potentially not die. And if our unit does die, this just falls back to base. So we get a 2 might buff for 1 power that stays around permanently that we can then reattach later, spending gold or just recycling runes. This card makes attacking so scary. So what we do with our Ezreal is our Ezreal can be on the point, our opponent moves in, we can activate the Edge of Night, get plus 2, Ezreal shoots our guy for 5, that guy probably dies. Very, very good. Or we can just use it, for example, on Treasure Hunter when they move their 2-drop in, our Treasure Hunter becomes a 3 might unit, kills their opponent's unit, and if we survive, we can just move back and then we make another treasure. Edge of Night, incredible card, and Nocturne at 6 might ganking is actually a threat. So huge fan of this. Also in our hidden line, we are playing another new card, the Switcheroo. Switcheroo is very good against stat check decks, so things like Set, Master Yi, anything that's just playing like really big guys, or even Jax. Jax has a couple of tricks to play around this, but just anything that's your opponent goes big guy, go burr, you go Switcheroo. It is a 2 energy, 2 chaos power card that you can hide. So you can hide it for the 1 power and react later for 0. It's also an action speed card, so we can play it during a showdown. Swap the mights of 2 units at the same battlefield this turn. That is a nice primal might you've got there. Be a shame if I were to steal your might and take it for the entire turn. With Ezreal, this card 100% kills one of their guys. They charge in, so say they go Thousand Tail Watcher and then they attack in with the Accelerate. You can play the switcheroo with your Ezreal, and then all of a sudden we've swapped might. So if we play it from hidden, we can have it so that we steal the Watcher's ability, the Watcher's might, and then we shoot that guy, and the Watcher dies. Or we can shoot that guy, and let's just say Ezreal had no equipment, so we've shot them for 1. Then we can play this from our hands, switcheroo, we swap our might, their guy's at 1 and has already taken 1 damage, it dies, and we have a 7 might Ezreal. That they then have to attack into again, and then they get shot again. Plus Ezreal shot them, this targeted as well, we've targeted our opponent's units twice, we draw a card. Switcheroo is fantastic. We're only playing 1 in the main deck because it's not very good against swarms or smaller enemies, but it is exceptionally strong against anybody trying to go big. So cards like Mundo and Thousand Tail Watcher, I think they lose a lot of value in set 2 because there's a lot more efficient answers for them. Switcheroo is a great card, and we want to bring it in against decks like Aurelia or Orin. All of these decks are going to be very, very big at stat checking us, and then we can go, great, our little guys can beat your guys, and we get more value out of our little guys than you do for yours. So, huge fan of this card. Next up, we are going to take a look at another one of our equipments. We're playing Boots of Swiftness. This just gives ganking. It's a free energy equipment. We get to attach it for a Chaos Power. Gives +2 might and ganking. Very, very strong. Put it on Ezreal. Ezreal's now at 5 might, and he just jumps from battlefield to battlefield without spending power to shoot things relentlessly. We can also just go ahead and chuck it on our Treasure Hunter in our turn 2, for example, if we survive. And then we can just move it over, conquer the other battlefield, make more gold. And having a 4 might Treasure Hunter that when it dies, you just go ahead and put the equips on the next thing. Pretty good, pretty good. So huge fan of this. To enjoy spending all of our gold, we are playing lots of hidden cards in order to get the advantage of it. But we're also playing cards like Rebuke. Big guy goes away. A very, very popular card in, for example, Yasuo. 2 energy, 2 chaos power. Action. Play in your turn or in showdown. Return a unit at the battlefield to its owner's hand. They run a Thousand Tail Watcher at you. You send it away. Seems pretty good. We can also send away things like Darius. We can send away anything that's kind of our opponent's invested a lot into. Or even Aurelia, if they've played a bunch of spells. We go ahead and just rebuke it. It sets our opponent back massively. And because we are not playing fair and we're paying this with gold, it's less painful for us. So this is a great card for us to play. Again, not so good into opponent's swarm small stuff, but that's what it gets sided out for. Then we have our signature spell. Arcane Shift is a free energy, and then it's a 1 power, which could be paid for with either a Mind or Chaos. So if we've got our seal, we'll use that. Otherwise, we could use gold, or we could use either of our runes. Action. Play on your turn or during the showdown, banish a friendly unit, then its owner plays it, ignoring its cost. Deal 3 damage to an enemy unit at the battlefield, then you banish this. So you banish this so you can't keep replaying it with cards like Fizz or getting it back with Annie. But effectively, what we get to do is replay our cool units. So things like Thousand Tail Watcher, we could potentially play again. We get to shoot that guy, and we get to play our guy where we could legally play that guy. So we can put it back in base to make it safe. But another really interesting thing that just got clarified on the official Discord is that you can use this to make the blue Ezreal shoot twice. So the way that works from a ruling perspective is your opponent attacks. When I attack, triggers. Then you enter the defense window. When I defend, triggers. Ezreal shoots. You let the Ezreal resolve because of his action speed. Then your opponent gets focus in the defense window. They choose to pass to you. You play Arcane Shift. You remove the Ezreal. You replay the Ezreal. This shoots. Then the Ezreal will trigger because we're in the defense step. And we shoot them again. Now, this got clarified on Discord, but I'm not 100% sure this is the ruling. If that's not how it works, this comes out of the deck. I would keep an eye on that. That's just what we've got initial feedback for. The set's not even out yet, but this makes this card really, really good because then we are literally obliterating any unit in the game for the most part. If our Ezreal's at 5 might, we go ahead, we shoot for 5, we shoot for another 3, Ezreal comes back, Ezreal shoots again, you know, seems pretty good. Obviously, any equipment you've got will fall off. So this is also another good way of, for example, getting all of the early gear off of a Treasure Hunter so that you can reattach it to some of your more threatening units. Then we come down to the last part of our deck. We are playing 2 copies of Nocturne, Singularity, and Thousand Tail Watcher. So our Nocturne Horrifying, this is a 4 energy 4 might unit. It is 1 chaos power, and it has ganking. And when you look at cards from the top of your deck and you don't draw them, and you see me, you can play me for a power. Main reason for this is that we have 3 copies of Stacked Deck, we have 3 copies of Cold Shot, Our chosen champion is also giving us card draw, so if we do draw this and don't want to play it, just go ahead and discard it and draw 2 new cards. But the other really cool thing with this is if you put any gear on it, all of a sudden a 6 might Nocturne jumping from battlefield to battlefield puts the opponent under a lot of pressure. So this is very, very good. And of course, we slide an additional one in when we're playing on the Candlelit Sanctum so that we have our 3 copies in our deck so that we get the most triggers possible. But yeah, when our opponent attacks into a battlefield we control, we can, for example, play Stack Deck, and then, or we can play Cold Shot, reveal cards. Oh, we found a Nocturne. Slap that straight on the defense. And then your opponents just ran into might they were not anticipating. From 0 energy, you could be tapped out, Cold Shot, and then just drop a Nocturne. Seems pretty good. Then for our 2 top end cards, we're playing 1 copy of Singularity. This is for shooting at our opponent who's trying to set up in base. Ezreal does tell your opponent, you don't want to move 1 unit in at a time. You want to start building an army. This punishes development when we're already winning the game. This makes sure that we stay in the lead. It also targets 2 units, so we can go ahead and just draw a card off of this. So very strong. We don't want to play multiple copies because, again, if we're losing the game, we're not getting back into it with Singularity because our opponent goes, okay, cool, you kill my 2 units, you spent 6 energy. I will play 2 more units and then I'll do something else. And you're like, great, I spent 2 power for that as well. So less effective in that situation, but it can be very, very strong when our opponent starts trying to turtle up. It's also a very easy card to side out if we're playing against something where this is less valuable. For example, something like Aurora. Lastly, we play 1 copy of Thousand Tail Watcher. It's an accelerate unit, so we can pay 1 less for it if we have our Ezreal chosen champion. It's 7 energy, 1 mind power, 7 might. You've seen a ton of this if you've been playing competitively. You have the accelerate for 1 energy, 1 additional mind power. When you play me, give enemy units -3, this turn to a minimum of 1. So we get to run over a battlefield. We can also use Arcane Shift with it. I find it less effective with cards like Switcheroo in the format, and removal being a little bit more efficient. It's things like Punch First. There's a lot of ways that this doesn't just win the game all by itself anymore. It's still good, so we're still playing our 1 copy, but if the format adjusts into a way where this is less valuable, for example, we don't see a lot of Azir or something, which is another deck that I'm excited to talk about in the future, we will end up probably taking this out. Then coming back up to some of our other spells, we have Fight or Flight, the 2 energy hidden card that you can just play at action speed, move a unit away. Very, very good if we're not going to win a fight or we need to retreat something, like our Treasure Hunter, we can get it back. Another new card that we're playing is Frigid Touch, which is a 2 energy reaction. Repeat for 2. So you can pay the additional cost, repeat the spell effect. It just gives a unit -2 might this turn. It doesn't say to a minimum of 1, so their unit can have 0 might. Cool thing with this is if you repeat it, you target the unit twice, you get to draw with your Ezreal. It's also an optional additional cost, so if we have Ezreal Prodigy, great. Yeah, it's a smokescreen that we didn't pay power for, and we drew a card. Seems great. So that's the main deck. And of course, all the links for this deck is in the description below. I'm going to go over the side deck now, and then we'll quickly look at the other deck. So our sideboard is pretty teched towards either spell-heavy matchups versus unit-heavy matchups. And the way that we do this is we have Hard Bargain, and we also have Vex. Both of these are new cards. We're going to start with Vex, and Vex is really obnoxious. If your opponent's playing anything with green in it, anything with blue in it, anything with purple in it, basically any of the colors that like to react, this card is a menace. Vex Cheerless is a 5 energy, 1 chaos power, 5 might. When I'm in combat, only when she's in combat, friendly spells cost 1 energy, 1 power less to a minimum of 1, and enemy spells cost 1 energy, 1 power more. So you move in with Vex to attack, and you play a spell. Your opponent plays Defy. That Defy costs 2 power, 2 energy, and your spell costs less. This makes it incredibly taxing for your opponent to play things like combat tricks or counter spells. It forces them to commit to cards before they move in. We can also use this to reduce our spell costs. So when we're playing things like Rebuke, we get to play it for 1 energy and 1 power. Seems great. When we have with Ezreal, we can take an extra reduction on power costs. Vex does say to a minimum of 1, so we don't ever get free spells off of it, but Vex is really obnoxious, for example, against Aurelia. If they want to move in and play Discipline to save their unit, Discipline now costs 3 energy and a power. A lot less effective. To combine that, obviously we're bringing Vex in against spell-heavy decks. A Hard Bargain, which is a 2 energy reaction. It's a Chaos card. It has repeat, so you can repeat the effect by paying the additional cost for 2, so we pay 4 for it. Counter target spell, unless its controller pays 2. So if we repeat it, our opponent has to pay 4 for it. If we have Ezreal, our repeat cost gets reduced. If we have Vex, our cost gets reduced. Our opponent's spells get increased by Vex, and then Hard Bargain can still counter that spell. So, for example, if your opponent tries to come in and play something crazy, you can go ahead and say to your opponent, yeah, you need to pay 5 and a power to resolve that spell, including the cost you've already paid. Like, this is very, very good against things like Kai'Sa, where you can really tax their runes and make it harder for them to get to their end game. It's just pretty solid in those spell-heavy matchups. And I like Vex against Kai'Sa as well, because your opponent has to commit to killing it out of combat, and anytime Kai'Sa has to play runes out of combat, they're not playing their big threats as easily. And you've got a lot of ways of protecting Vex in combat, and if they move in, you've got a pretty good advantage. And plus, if we put a equipment on her and she gets +2 might, she's all of a sudden sitting on 7. Not an easy number to beat and very expensive to attack into. We have our extra copy of Switcheroo, which comes in versus the stat check decks. We have our copy of Nocturne, which comes in against some of our more aggressive. We definitely want it in against everything when we're on the Candlelit Sanctum, as we can just get extra triggers. That's extra 4 might gankers that we're going to be suiting up. And then after it gets secured by the Nocturne, we can just play an Ezreal next to it. And then Ezreal will sit there holding the point. And the last card in the side deck is the Pickpocket. This is a free energy, free might unit. When you play me, you may kill a gear with an energy cost no more than 1. If you do, play a gold gear token exhausted. We're using this to eat our opponent's seals. We're using this to eat our opponent's gold. Comes up against Azir as well. A lot of the cool equipments that they want to play that cost 1. We can just go ahead and eat it and get a power. It's very good to bring into game 2 once you know what the matchup is. And gold is going to be very, very important. And this card lets you do some nasty things to your opponent. Plus, we can also arcane shift it, eat another one of our opponent's gold. And then, of course, this gave us the gold that paid for the arcane shift. Pretty cool all around. Plus, it's free might. With an equip, it goes up and does a lot of work. And that's going to be the Ezreal skill shot deck. And if you want full numbers for how much the quantities for all of the cards being played, if you're listening on Spotify, just go ahead and head over to the links we've got down below, and you can find it on Piltover Archive. And this will tell you exactly what I've got for the layout of the deck. Next up, I'm going to do a bit of a faster overview of a different variant that I'm currently playing of Ezreal. It's a fun one, but bear with me, it's a little bit out there. So this is Dark Ezreal. Dark Ezreal is playing Prodigal Explorer, but we're playing 12 Chaos Runes. We're not playing any blue runes in this deck. And the main thing is with that is that we want to spend all of our Chaos power controlling the battlefields as much as possible. This is a Mono Chaos deck. It's like the first one of its kind that we get to play. We've seen maybe a couple of just total Fury decks, but we haven't seen Mono Chaos. And this is very, very good for that. Playing the same chosen champion, the Ezreal Prodigy, and we're playing 3 copies of this. This is very, very powerful. It lets us build our deck in a different way. And I'm taking tips from Galewinds here. We play a lot of our cards that in 1 or 2 quantities, and then in our side deck, we side in exactly what we need for the matchup. So we always have our tools regardless of the matchup. And then we can use Ezreal Prodigy to discard the cards that we don't need to draw additional cards. We also play game 1 every single time on the Zone Warrens, so we can throw out any of the cards we're not using. We're doing all the same tricks with Cooled Shot, Stacked Deck, Cull. We're also playing 2 copies of Scrap Heap, the 2 energy when this is played or discarded or killed. Draw card. Ezreal Prodigy can just throw that out and lets us draw an extra card. So Ezreal becomes discard 1, draw 3. Very, very strong. We're playing 1 copy of Hard Bargain in the main. We discard it if we're playing against some more aggressive decks or something like Rek'Sai. We're playing 3 Plundering Poros, the Frigid Touches. We're playing Switcheroo. 1 copy of Ride the Wind. Ride the Wind lets us do really cool things with some of our bigger units and the event that we just need to get mobile. So say our opponents had a very fast start, Ride the Wind can help us get back into the game. If we don't necessarily need it, we can just get rid of it. We're playing Fireflight, we're playing Treasure Hunter, we're playing Rebuke, we're playing Edge of Night, we're playing the Arcane Shifts. Drop Border is a new one. This is a 4 energy, 4 might unit, and it's played in mind, but it doesn't have a power cost, so we are still allowed to play it. When you play me, if you control 2 or more gear, ready me. So we have our coal and our gold. Just play this, and we've straight away just got a 4 might accelerated unit that just goes straight in. If our Treasure Hunter died, that's fine. We can just attach the equipment to this, and we can send it in. It can be a 6 might accelerate if we equip it with the Edge of Night, which is the reason we don't play something like Sivir, is we just effectively get the effect for 0 power. We are playing our Nocturnes in the main, and we're also playing our Vex in the main for all the reasons we discussed before. But when we transition with our side deck, We can take the Vexes out if we're not against a spell matchup. If we are against a spell heavy matchup, the Vexes come in. Our side deck is 2 copies of Hard Bargain, 1 Switcheroo, 1 Rebuke, 2 Pickpocket, 1 Nocturne for our more aggressive matchups and when we're on Candlelit, and we also get to play another Vex. But we can swap out or swap in whatever we need depending on the matchup, and we can increase the cards that are working, we can remove the cards that are not working. Our other 2 battlefields, we are playing a Candlelit Sanctum, so Zone Warren's Game 1, Candlelit Sanctum Game 2, Ravenbloom Conservatory is a new battlefield that we're going to be playing for when we go second. Ravenbloom Conservatory is going to be a battlefield that we play when we're going first, and this is when you defend here, reveal the top card of your main deck. If it's a spell, put it into your hand, otherwise recycle it. So we have a lot of spells, especially after side decking, when we grab all of the tech we need for whatever matchup we're in. We have a lot of spells. We effectively get to do cool things like our opponent attacks a Ravenbloom Conservatory, we reveal a cooled shot, we play cooled shot, we pay the repeat cost, we reveal 2, draw 2 cards. Oh, we found a Nocturne, slap Nocturne straight down on the point. We've just added 4 might with 0 energy out of nowhere. We can randomly draw a Frigid Touch, which just lets us win the combat. You can even just rip Switcheroo off the top, and that can absolutely blow an opponent out. Very, very strong. And then we're doing all the same tricks with our hidden stuff. This is another deck that you could theoretically play in Teemo. And that question of why I'm not playing Mundo or things like that is, again, I just think there's a lot of better answers to Mundo in this set than there was in set 1. And for example, I would not want to be the Mundo player who gets switcherooed. That would feel obnoxiously bad. But those are my initial takes on the deck. You can definitely do a couple of adjustments. In the side panel on Piltover Archive, I've written up a play-by-play and a mulligan guide and a bit of a matchup guide. I've been having a ton of fun with both variants of the deck, and I encourage you to try it out. Our preferred platform is TCG Arena. I'll put the link down below. You can play in a web browser to play for free, or you can play on Tabletop Simulator, or you can enjoy all of this when it comes out in February. Obviously, Bologna and Vegas, both the official regionals, are going to be played in Spiritforged format. You do not want to be going from your pre-release to that event without looking at the new cards, so I strongly advise that you go ahead and check out all the cards. Also, if you just want somebody to tell you what they think is cool, we would love it if you subscribe to this channel. We're doing really, really great right now. Every person helps. It helps us keep bringing great content to you, and we would love to continue to grow and making great Riftbound content. But from my side, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. Would love to hear down in the comments what changes you'd make to the deck or any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them personally. But for now, take care, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.